right, everyone. Welcome back to another Watch and Talk here at Automotive Anatomy. Is it here at Automotive Anatomy or here in or on Automotive Anatomy? I don't know. The ALD in me comes out. Anyways, welcome back to Automotive Anatomy. Yeah, thank you so much for the love and the support on the previous Watch and Talk. For whatever reason, people see the 830 and they don't want to tune in. I get it. When I watch my wife's Accord, it's the same thing. No worries. But yeah, thank you. I think there was a lot of cool comments from a lot of you guys about the stories that I share. And yeah, that's the whole idea, right? To share stories and to hopefully motivate others and just let them know a little bit more about me and some of the challenges and some of the accomplishments that I have and will continue to do. And we as a community, I think it's our job and our responsibility to continue to motivate other people in a positive way. So it I guess it snowed in California, in places where it never snows. Honestly, it wasn't snow. It was like hell, or whatever it's called. Not hell. See, the ELD is coming out of me today. But it wasn't snow. But it, for Cali, this is snow. So we'll take it. And weather's been acting up a little crazy. Haven't been able to wash the cars. Not complaining, not gonna lie, but I definitely do need to get on it and start getting things ready to wash the car. I need to get more soap. The spray gun is giving me issues. It's getting stuck, so it's taking me a while to be able to put the bottle, take off the bottle, put the nozzle, take out the nozzle. So I gotta figure that out. I think it's just an old, not very expensive pressure washer. So yeah. Well, what do I want to talk today? Today is really a time that I just wanted to conversate about some of the emotions, I would say, as I was editing Ralph's Accord Coupe that went live on Wednesday. Obviously today's Friday, you're listening to this, or whenever you're listening to this. The previous video from here was Ralph's Accord Coupe. We tried to do it more on the documentary type of style. It was a lot more work, but there was a lot of things I personally wasn't happy with, in the sense of like my shooting style. Some of the lenses were not clean, so the pictures and some of the video wasn't the best. And with that comes, practice. I think the biggest issue that I found myself was lacking preparation, in the sense of, I guess, lacking preparation and more on, I think if I would have spent more time, I think that day I had to do something on that day. And we weren't in a rush, but it almost, we had 6 hours to shoot. And I understand that the more you shoot, the more, footage you have available to you. And for me, it was difficult at times, because I'm like, you feel like you shot for a long time, right? But then you look at the footage and you're like, that's all I got. So that's kind of how I felt at times. And so when I was trying to pair the video, you can tell that I was running out of footage. And Ralph had a lot more to say that then didn't make it into the video. And so it sucks, right? But it's difficult. And some of you that actually do edit videos for a living, or just, for fun, you understand that editing can be a little bit tedious. That's why in December on a Watch and Talk, I said, yeah, for sure, I'm going to go get a wireless mic. And I looked into it. Honestly, I looked into it. And then I got discouraged just by some stories that I've heard. Like, oh, yeah, it works good, but sometimes it stops working because, something's blocking the signal, and then you lose the audio. And I was like, man, I don't want to go through that. So honestly, that's the biggest reason why I'm like, I just don't. It's difficult to. It's easy for you guys to say, oh, it looks so much better. I get it. I'm not Jay Leno. I don't have three sets of people working for me and backup mic and backup mic. I'm not the Hoonigans. I'm not Larry Chan. I'm not those people, right? So for me, it's so much difficult to go meet up with somebody, come back, and there's no footage. Like, damn, I have to be mindful. Like, for most of us, it's just, oh, you're watching a video, oh, no problem. But for the owners, it's like they're taking time away from their family. They have, different things going on. Like, they're taking time away. And so I'm just trying to make sure that I utilize time the best way possible. And with Ralph, we definitely, I wanted to do it like a documentary style, just because I felt like, um, I don't know, I wanted to push myself, as you guys can tell right there, getting my foot all wet. But I want to do that, but I don't. I quickly remember I don't want to do these type of videos all the time. There's so much work. It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't look like it because the editing is not sharp as other videos, or some of the main channels like Top Gear and things like that. But what you guys failed to see is that Top Gear takes a whole entire day to shoot. They have multiple crews, and it takes about 2-3 weeks for the video to come out. As people are just, that's their 9 to 5. They work on editing videos for a living, and so I don't, and nor do I want to. That's not my jam, and so I try to edit it to the best of my abilities, but man, it just gets tiring. And I spend some good 5 hours, 4 hours on his interview. I did 3 different sets of days, and Tuesday, the day before it went live, I was laying down in my bed. I just bam knocked it out after work, and 2-3 hours went by, and I was like, holy crap, Even my wife had been doing errands and whatnot, and she's like, you haven't moved? I was like, no. I'm like, I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm done. She's like, yeah, I got stretch or something, because I guess there's a lot of things that go unnoticed, and so sometimes some of you guys may think, well, you could have done this better, and I agree. I'm all for getting feedback. I definitely try to improve, but yeah, like the whole wireless mic and things like that, it gets difficult. So I've it's happened to me a couple of times where I have to drive up to meet the owner again, and being stuck in traffic, etc., etc. You guys get the gig. It's not super fun, but it's it's fun in the sense that, like, you get to meet different people, but at the same time, it can be a little stressful. There's times that I'll go till Friday. I'm like, oh shoot, I haven't hit up the person I'm supposed to interview this week, and then if they cancel me because it rains, or they cancel me because their car's not working, then that's one weekend that if I really want to stay consistent with the videos, I need to figure out something out, and if I don't, I don't, and that's it. I think we've tried to be as consistent as possible. I owe it to you guys to provide you guys what we've been doing. I'm all for changing it up here and there, but honestly, I don't want to change it too much. Like, I've noticed that in some major channels, some big YouTube channels, the style of the videos completely change. And yes, it works for the masses and there's more views coming in, but it just kills the whole grassroots, what got them started, at least from my end, my personal opinion. And so I personally, whenever I see a channel that is starting to grow and grow and grow, and it changes its style to feed the algorithm, or it's a business or whatever, it's like, okay, let me go find another channel, somebody else who's recording with their phone, someone. That's why I personally love Dana's effing static YouTube channel. He's working off his garage, he's building super cool cars. In one video, I'm washing my wheels, he's like putting and taking off a turbo. Like, the guy's insane. And yet I still feel like he's super underrated, under sub. But because I think a lot of people, he has a solid 20,000 people, which is a lot, who tune into his videos. But honestly, that guy deserves to have 100,000 videos per views per video. He's that good. And for me, I don't want to change this up. I love the Washington Talks. I watch Ups his garage, and I see that he pumps out a whole bunch of videos, and I'm like, eh. But when a Washington Talk comes in, I'm like, great, I can listen to it. Even if I'm not watching the video, I can still listen to it and kind of gather some information about where he's going, where he's headed. And so I try to utilize these videos as well to kind of share with you guys, like, hey, like a 25-minute video for Ralph's coupe. It looks simple. It looks like, oh, it looks choppy in some areas. But it's a lot of work. I spent a lot of hours. And so I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy for the video. I hope, the ultimate goal, like I was telling him, in 15-16 years, when his little son is able to drive, he can see this video and see, like, damn, dad was driving this coupe back in the day, and we drove all through LA, and so just memories. So for me, that's what it is. Life gives you left curves, life gives you cycles. I don't know where I'll be in 10 years. I'm hoping I'm healthy and doing great, but life is life. And so if one day this is all that remains. And I really hope that you or your future generations get something out of this and say, okay, anything that I put myself and my mind into, I'm gonna go ahead and accomplish it, because really we're here to be a better version of ourselves. At least that's my opinion. And for me, a better version of myself is washing my car and doing a voiceover over it, and I enjoy it. I legitimately do. This is my thing. I don't know. Some people like to, you know, go shoot guns or whatever, and I think that's also a healthy thing. Go and express your stress, and it's an art form, and go hang out with your friends while you do that. Other people like to go camping, whatever is appropriate for you. Go ahead and do it in a safely manner. I'm all for that. I think that you need to develop those healthy habits, because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with some type of stress. So we need to develop a way to relieve that stress. Otherwise, we turn into very grumpy people, and nobody likes to be around grumpy people. um but yeah, that's why no wireless mic as of yet. Maybe in the future, when I feel more confident, because I had this conversation with two other people that make videos, and they're like, no dude, it's so easy, it works, no problem. And I'm like, yeah. Granted, they do videos a little different, and so I'm like, I don't know, man. One thing that I am gonna incorporate after this video immediately, I'm gonna go in on Amazon and buy walkie talkies, because Ralph brought out his walkie talkies, and they honestly game changer. Just to be able to talk back and forth, it was pretty good. It was pretty simple. Now, granted, for his, it was a little bit more useful because we drove around the for those that saw the video. I know some of you guys just tuned into the Wash and Talk, so you guys are probably thinking like, what are you talking about? Some of the rollers, we did them in some tunnels off the 101. Don't quote me, I could be wrong. Off the 101, and we, obviously we got a couple sets of rollers, but we went 4 times, I think, or 3 times, to do those rollers. And there was a lot of cars, even though it was like 7 in the morning. But the walkie talkies were great, because we were talking like, okay, so do we go back? Yep, let's go back. Let's do this. Oh, okay. This time we're gonna get sound. So it was great. And then after that, we booked it to uh, 6th Street, 4th Street in LA, and to other different places. So I don't know. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. Definitely, I had to push myself. I need to push myself for the documentary type of style for the 3 different stories, like we've done for the EF and the EG. I already asked 2 people for Integras, and they said yes. It's just now they're waiting on me. So I need to make it happen. And I do want to do Accords. I do want to do EKs. Um, I think, at the top of my head, I can think of some other type of makes and models that I want to do documentary type of styles, but they do take long, and the editing process is a little bit longer than just like a typical, interview. But I think it's worth it. I think people really appreciate when we highlight 3 different stories on the same chassis, and you get 3 different takes. So I am gonna do that. I may do a post on Instagram to see what kind of questions you guys want to be, answered for the documentary style. But we'll see. I'm excited about that, and that's definitely gonna come out this year. I just need to set it up. I need to make sure that I make the time for it, and we just have to make it happen, because nothing gets done just by thinking about it. We have to take action. So that's kind of one of the things that it's been on the back of my head. I've been slacking on the documentary styles videos, and yeah, I just legitimately like them, and I think that it it creates this sense of a different type of video. And if you drive that type of chassis, there's pride in the fact that people are still working on those cars, and you know uh, building them and whatnot. So um, as I'm washing the car, I realized that wide wheels are not fun. They are not. I like when when I'm cleaning them, but man, they get dirty so fast. And part of it is the brake pads on this car. They're the Hawk ones, and they're very dusty. But yeah, I get it. I don't know. I drive a race car. What can I say? So I did order OEM Porsche brake pads. I need to switch those out, and I need to do quite a bit of work on some of the other cars. But with all due time, we'll get all that done. So I think a lot of you guys really responded positively to some of the stories that I shared from when I was in Mexico City, and it was fun. I think Francisco Martinez, if I'm not mistaken, he mentioned the name um, of the game that I used to play, and I'm like, yeah, I brought memories. Like, yep, I forgot the name of them. We also played with trompos. I don't know if some of you guys know what trompos are. I don't know how to say in English. And canicas, marbles. Um, we played back then. It was early 2000, late 90s. So we had what was those freaking cards? Oh shoot, I'm blinking out. And they were like super cool. And we would put the cards on the bottom, and then we would use our hands to almost like clap and then create air, and then the air would flip the cards, and whatever cards were flipped, then you get to keep. And I'm trying to remember what was the cartoon that I used to. What was the cartoon on those cards? It wasn't Dragon Ball. Was it Dragon Ball? Ah man, I'm blinking out. But yeah, um, we used to play with those little things. The school was really small, so it's not like schools here in the United States where there's massive fields of grass and things like that. Um, which reminds me, when I first came to the States back in 2000, uh, I remember walking to the school for the first time with my mom, and there was two entrances, so that we went through the field area, right? So like I'm looking and I'm like, man, what's up with this grass? You know, there's a lot of grass. Like, believe it or not, I had not seen that much grass. Like, again, we grew up in like dirt streets and things like that, you know. So she walked me, and she's like, "Oh, this is a school," and I was like, "This is a school." I mean, it was humongous, you know. I was like, all these grass, a whole bunch of basketball courts, handball courts. I didn't even know what the handball courts were, you know. I was like, what the heck, monkey things? I was like, man, buildings were huge. I just remember walking, and at the time, only one lady spoke Spanish, which was the secretary. So she helped, you know, translate everything for my mom with, I don't know who, you know, we were talking to, maybe the office manager. And I remember, man, like the first time I stepped into the classroom, they're like, okay, so he's gonna stay here. Yeah, yeah, okay, cool. It's like, well, we'll take him. So they took me to my, what was it, fourth grade teacher? Yeah, third, yeah, fourth grade teacher, and I forgot her name, Mrs. Avajan, I think that's what it was. And I remember like I went in and she looked at me and she said something. I was like, what the heck? And then she's like, no English, and I was like, no. And she just like went like just sit right here. You know, she pointed out. I was like, okay, so I sat there, and she didn't know what to do with me because back then there wasn't that much English learners at all. So there was one girl that spoke Spanish a little bit. So she was like, "Oh yeah, like she's telling you to sit and do this and that." And I was like, "Okay." And it was interesting just because it's crazy how times have changed. Um, it at the time I saw it as a problem because man, there's not that much people that many people that speak Spanish, so I need to force myself to learn. I need to force my like it was difficult. Now, as you guys can still hear me, I'm still kind of, you know, my English is not the best, but compared to other people that never practice it, then it's a little bit better. And so you have to go through those struggles at first. And I always like to, you know, tell people that I work with, if it's easy now, it's going to be hard later. And if it's hard now, it's going to be easy later. And I'm a true believer of that statement because in that time it was very difficult. It was extremely difficult, but my English improved so much in about 2 years. And that's when I was able to understand it and speak it. But during those first 2 years, it was difficult. Um, I remember that same girl told me like, "Oh, we're working on these documentary." I was like, "Okay, well, what is a documentary?" You know, it's like you're gonna do research, okay, and you're gonna pick an animal, and then you're gonna you know write about it, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, and I was always like the top two or top three student in Mexico, so I like school. You know, I definitely did. I pay attention, but when you come to the States and you have no English, I remember doing a research paper, a report on the octopus. I don't know why. That was the last animal that was remaining, and I like it. So I was like, all right, cool. Why did my report in Spanish? You know, I was like, I don't know what. And I did a sick ass report too. I think it was like 4 pages, and You know, like back then when you had the school had to take turns because the computers were only in the computer lab, right? So they're like, oh, okay, get ready because Tuesday we're gonna have the computer lab for about 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did the report. I didn't even know how to use a computer, so I didn't know how to type. So anyways, then I ended up looking at books and I did a report. I don't even know how. It was like 4 or 5 pages. And the teacher gave me an F. No, I take that back. She gave me a D. She gave me a D, I think, a D minus. And I think I remember asking the girl, like, what is this? And she's like, oh, I think you got a D because you turned something in. I'm like, oh, is that a good grade? She goes, no. I was like, okay. And then I think she told me, it's like, it's in Spanish. I don't understand anything. I think that was the comment that she had left. And I felt so defeated. I was so sad. I was like, what the heck, man? Like how am I supposed to like do well in this? So obviously they didn't have any English learner program. And I was like, man, this sucks. Like I was just sad because I would come home and I would tell my mom like, hey, like, how do I do this? And she's like, I don't know. How's your teacher? I was like, well, she doesn't speak Spanish. How am I supposed to ask her? So I would go back to the class with empty papers, and the teacher would look at me like, well, I don't know what to tell you, kid. And so then the girl, I would tell her like, hey, can you help me? And then during lunch, she would go play with her friends. So I would just kick it by myself, looking at other kids play basketball, just standing there. Again, it was different times. A lot of Caucasians, a lot of Asians, no Spanish speakers, and so I was just standing there, just looking at people. And so the teacher, she's probably like, I don't know how to help these kids. So what they end up doing, then I have an English program. One day out of nowhere, the secretary, the one that spoke Spanish, she comes in. She's like, hey, we're gonna take you over to this class, and that way you can practice your English. And I was like, okay. So they put me with first graders. Granted, I'm a much bigger kid, right? So I get there, and I'm obviously, I know that they're first graders, but I made long term friendships with these kids, man, because they were like, oh my gosh, an upper grader. 2 years later. And two, I was happy because they weren't gonna be making fun of my English. I was like, so like they were so nice, they were like sitting in a little like table, and so they sat me there, and they had like a whole bunch of kids, and they were like, no hablas inglés. They're like, right away they told me, you don't speak English. I was like, nah. They're like, oh, we do, we can teach you. And I was like, hell yeah. So like they taught me, and I would go there like 3 times per week. Even like I started practicing with them. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then they were younger, so they would play in the other side of the playground where we couldn't go. Like I would always wave at them. Like those were my friends. I was friends with first graders, but back then there was no English learning program, so that was the way they threw me back into first grade. And once I gathered that, I was like, cool. Like, man, I got my English. I started practicing. In another video, I'll tell you guys through some of the most challenging situations that I went through as a learning English in a very I don't know how to say it, but I guess kids that are not so open minded or welcoming, for foreigners. But that would be in a different video. But that was one way for me to just learn the language, go through those challenging situations. That was the last time. That was the last time that I received like an F on my report card, fourth grade. Yeah, obviously they passed me, right? It's, the U.S. education system. I still got an F, but I'm so glad that nobody told my mom, hey, we should retain him, because knowing my mom, should have been like, sure, whatever the teachers say, And so they didn't retain me. They moved me to fifth grade. And that's so funny because the fifth grade teacher was, so the school that I went to was tracks, right? Track A, track B, track C. Most schools don't do that anymore. They're all the same track, per se. So I remember the next track lady, track C, a fifth grade teacher. I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to be, I don't want anybody to get offended, but she was definitely more on the conservative, Caucasian, older. She was already like close to retirement. And within the first week, like they moved me tracks. She was like, I'm not going to be dealing with this kid. It doesn't speak English. So they moved me with the first year teacher in a different track. And so obviously Miss Ashkenazi. So I don't know if that's Russian or Polish. I don't know. Super cool lady. And that was a year that I think I learned the most English. She took the time. She was motivated. She was Yeah, that year was, I think, the game changer for me completely. uh I wasn't afraid to read the books. People would make fun of me like, hey, you pronounce this wrong, and I was like, okay, I'm learning English, like, what's your excuse, like. And so, but I learned, went through those emotions. And then sixth grade was cool too. um I was able to, many years later, I was able to attend to my sixth grade teacher's retirement party. We kept in contact, so that was also fun. But that was elementary, man. That's so like going from first, second, third grade in my poor little elementary in Mexico, being one of the top students. There's this thing called la escolta, and in Mexico, um, you're part of the ones that, the salute the flag or whatever. The five people that kind of walk with the flag. I don't know how to call it. And I was part of that. Like, I was, I guess, smart. I was the one that would call out the orders. We won a championship out of like 40 schools. Like, we did amazing. So I was somewhat, quote unquote, like, top dog in Mexico, and to come here and just completely get destroyed. I mean, I wrote a 4-page banger of a paper in Spanish about octopuses, but the teacher couldn't read it, so she gave me a D. I was like, oh man, that sucks. It's not gonna be easy. But now looking back, it's like, I'm glad. She was preparing me to do a voiceover of my Washington talks. But yeah, I think that's. I don't even know how we got into this topic today, but it's a good one. Like I said, thank you guys so much for the love and the support. Hope you guys like this Wash and Talk, and yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.